Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another installment of The Way It Is. I'm your host, Luca Andelfato with Remax Service First Realty. And today is episode, 22, 23, something like that. We're just chugging right along here during the pandemic. And I'm fortunate to have I'll call you a friend, Cory, if that's okay. I know we met. Cory Davis is a freelance writer, blogger, but we met well over a year ago, pre-pandemic. I reached out to Cory. He was at that time working in the social media world with a group of colleagues, and we engaged to think about doing some hiring them to do some social media for me and everything. And then we just kind of connected from there and sort of stayed in touch. So I'm going to just Cory gave me a great bio though to read off, and so I will do that. So. Cory, he works as a copywriter for one of Ottawa's largest marketing and advertising agencies. He does offer freelance writing and content marketing solutions for small business and entrepreneurs. He covers topics spanning from real estate, home design, to community features, travel, outdoor recreation. And if he's not writing, he's on a squash court, which he loves to do with racket in hand. And then he shares an apartment with his partner and their tiny dog Pip in Kingston. And so that's I was happy to have Cory join us today because he did do a lot of blog writing for the Canadian Real Estate Association, and those can be found on realtor.ca. So welcome, Cory.
I appreciate you having me, Luca. It's nice to see you, albeit virtually. Eventually, we'll have to get together and have that beer and maybe swing a golf club. You can show me how that's done because that's usually not my forte. But
we'll trade because you'll have to show me how to swing a squash racket. So
there you go. You go. Well, yeah. Again, I appreciate you taking the time and reaching out and having me on the podcast.
Well, and thank you for being here. So I guess I'll start with your tenure as a blogger for Canadian Real Estate Association. How did that come to be, and what did you find sort of was most of the content that you were able to provide?
Well, it was sort of just to backtrack a little bit. When I was working at a paddle sports shop in Sydenham, Frontenac Outfitters, and there was a Instagram sort of 2.0 workshop that I attended, and I had met the digital specialist for Alphabet, who is the agency I now work for. She was hosting the event, and so we just kind of got chatting, and I asked if they were hiring freelancers or if that was something that they had taken on. And at the time, they didn't really have an availability, but just kind of putting the face to the name and saying hello. About a month later, I did end up connecting with their content specialist on LinkedIn and gave me a call, asked if I was interested in doing some writing for realtor.ca's blog Living Room. Of course, I jumped all over that. Great opportunity. Most of the content that I do for them really revolved around sort of their neighborhood guides. So just basically all over Canada, some unique neighborhoods, just doing a lot of research on the neighborhood, just not being able to travel as much right now. But that's where I started. I did some stuff with what I would say Real Estate 101, in terms of what you need to know, and then as well as how to sell unique homes was kind of where I was geared towards, but mostly it was the neighborhood guides, which I thought, pretty interesting, gives you an opportunity to travel, quote unquote, and get to know some of these neighborhoods we have in Ontario, but all over Canada. We're very fortunate to have some great landscapes, some really unique neighborhoods, very vibrant, lots of personality. And so just being able to kind of dive deep into it and get to know some of these places has to be one of the best things about that opportunity. And of course, I'm still doing that now.
Well, and you touched on something, because I think if and when travel becomes, I guess, available or more available, or people are willing to do it, I think the pandemic taught a lot of people that staying within your own borders is you don't have to go very far to find interesting places and spots to be, right? Not only within your own community, but just within your own province and within your own country.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even here in Kingston, we're so fortunate. The Thousand Islands are right there. You head north, you have beautiful Canadian Shield, a lot of rural neighborhoods that offer a lot more than just sort of your ma and pa shops. They have some great um, outdoor areas, provincial parks, national parks. So we are very fortunate where we are here in Kingston, but all over Canada, there's just these little pockets of neighborhoods that have such personality. And I think, I'm getting the travel bug hard, not to say it ever wasn't there. But now that I've been doing all these guides and I'm learning about all these places, that bucket list is getting longer and longer.
Yes, no, I agree. And, I think back, a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, several years ago, he took that, I think, was it called the Rocky Mountaineer or something? The train that goes all the way
Yep.
out west, and it has the glass top on it and stuff. And you can see, I mean, that's on my bucket list. Why would you get on a plane if you can go do that?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and just to your point about post-pandemic travel, I think stuff like that is going to be a little bit more popular, where the, you know, typical travel would have been hopping on a plane and going to the sunny tropical destination. And I think now we're going to see more of those road trip RV train style vacations really starting to take off.
yeah, I have to agree with you there for sure. So, one of the other reasons I wanted you on, Cory, because we follow each other on Instagram, and I like your posts, and I like where your head's at, I guess, in terms of, and not to make this overly or esoteric for people, or sort of too philosophical, if you will, or psychological, but you're going through a bit of a journey yourself, and that's one of the reasons I wanted you on, is because I've been following your posts, I've been following your blogs, and you're not alone in this world now, in terms of those that. And I truly, I've come to hate the word pivot. I really do, can't stand it. But I've only ever known it on the basketball court, but now apparently you can use it anywhere. But I'd like to, and obviously, just tell what you feel comfortable telling, but give us some insight into what this journey is, and what it's looking like for you.
Yeah. So I guess when I started my blog, The Davis Daily, what it really was about was kind of getting back to what I really enjoyed doing, which was writing and being creative. At the time, like I said, I was working for Frontenac Outfitters Canoe and Kayak Center. I was going on year 7 or year 8 of being there. Marketing manager was my title, but as a sort of small family owned business, you tend to do a lot of everything. And I was really kind of getting more into the sales side of things, which is great when you want to get to know the customer, the end user. But I was getting to a point where I was starting to lose the passion for it, and I was getting a little lost. So when I started that blog, it was kind of just, a way of me connecting with what I was passionate about, but also holding myself accountable because I was ready for a change. I needed to make a change, but I didn't really know what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about writing is, sometimes you write because you have something to say, but sometimes you write to figure out what you want to say.
Right.
And as I started writing about what I wanted to do, that's when I started freelancing, because I realized that opportunity was there. I started connecting with small business owners and entrepreneurs who were all, not to say the cliche, but following their dream, right?
Yep.
And that's really inspiring. So as I started to connect with more of these freelancers, I realized what I want to do is become a writer. I want to be a professional writer. Now, to be a writer of books or novels, that's a little bit of a fisherman's pipe dream for me, and certainly not as obtainable to everybody. But my background is in marketing and advertising. And so I figured copywriting was the best way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, again, I mentioned how I connected with the folks at Alphabet. I started freelancing for TWII through them. And then when Alphabet's one of their writers left, I was the first on the list. They didn't even do an interview process with anybody else. They just called me up, said, "We have an opportunity. Are you interested?" I met with the president, met with the CEO, and I started working for them. That was in July of 2020. And that's when I really started to pivot and started to say, what I want to write about is this journey to self-improvement. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a neuroscientist. So kind of my mission statement or my vision statement that is, it's a blue collar perspective on personal growth and professional development.
Right.
I'm just the average Joe, but I'm, in the span of about 18 months, I went from working full-time in retail to starting to freelance and working full-time. And now I'm a full-time copywriter and at an agency that is award-winning. And I'm sort of bashful when it comes to being proud of myself.
Yep.
But that is something that I think I should be proud of. And why I want to write about it is because I want to inspire the other people out there that maybe be in the same position I was to say, hey, if I can do it, so can you, right?
Well, and exactly, and I applaud that, and more to the point, there's so much noise out there in the world right now with this self-help and motivational speaking and motivational snippets. I mean, my gosh, all you got to do is open your phone and your feeds are just inundated with them and stuff. And I get, in fact, I've gone the opposite where I just get so annoyed and turned off by it. I almost get angry at them, and again, that's one of the reasons why, your perspective, I think, might resonate more with people in the sense that it's authentic, which, again, that word's getting a little bit cliche, but it is authentic, and it's coming from a place of reality and who you are in essence, right? So, I mean, it's not this marketed, scripted, polished, shtick, I guess, that you see out there. So.
The how to become a millionaire in 10 days, those types of posts, that's, I definitely am in the same boat as you, is where when I see those, my eyes roll in the back of my head. And that's why if you read my stuff, I don't shy away from the fact that I struggle. This is not easy. It takes a lot of hard work. You can't become the self-proclaimed millionaire in 10 days. That just doesn't happen. You have to dig in. You have to be willing to make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and to just keep going when you get knocked down, because in the end, it happens. So you might as well learn how to clean yourself off and keep going.
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, from my perspective in real estate, and I probably have touched on this in previous podcasts, but, it's interesting. We had our message from our president today. Monthly newsletter came out from the Kingston Area Real Estate Association, and I was just quickly glancing at it. I didn't give it a good read, but the one comment that caught my eye is when I started in this business in '89, there was over 750 licensed agents in Kingston. Probably 450 too many. And then through the 90s, that dropped to about actually 450, 500. But now we've just cracked 600 again. And to me, it speaks to this attitude or idea that pervades, because everybody gets caught up in, oh, real estate is booming and it must be so good and you guys must be doing so well. I've done this for 33 years. This is a lot of hard work, and this is the most challenging market I've ever operated in. I don't care what anybody says. You don't pick bills off trees. There's this, even my two assistants who are newly minted realtors, they had ambitious goals, but even they're learning pretty quickly the realities of what it takes to do a deal, to convert a client, to retain a client, to form a relationship, to have a client, let alone even think about the transactional part of it, right? So yeah, I applaud that side of it, and I applaud your the humility and the I guess the vulnerability, right? I mean, because you got to lay yourself out there, right? You got to be not afraid to show the good and the bad and the ugly.
Well, you mentioned building relationships, and whether it's, a relationship with a significant other, relationship with a friend, relationship with a client or a customer, those are also built over time with honesty and integrity. And the only way that's really done is when you actually are your true self, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And let's face it, some people you're going to connect with, some people you aren't going to connect with. That's just the way it is. And I think, to yourself being in real estate for 30 plus years, I think that's a testament to being able to say, hey, these are the types of people I build relationships with, and these are the types of people I don't build relationships with. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. And at 55, I'm going to tell you this, it's a lot easier to make those distinctions and make those decisions. I'm going to tell you that right now. So
my old man would say the exact same thing. Not saying you're old, Luca, not saying you're old.
No. Yeah, well, that's an interpretive question, but yeah. So getting back to this writing piece, and during this pandemic, and now I'll tell you, and the other reason I reached out to you is because that latest announcement on Friday really, I mean, I've always struggled with people, this mental health side of the pandemic. And you know what? It hit home. It hit home because I'm an avid golfer. Those that know me know that I should be on a golf course at this time of year, and I try to get out as often as I can. And the whole reason I have trying to build these assistants and have a system in place so that we can still service clients, but I can now, after all these years, try to enjoy a round of golf with not having my phone attached to my head. But I was so depressed after that announcement on Friday, like literally depressed, angry, frustrated, and it just hit me. It was going like, wow, like this really sucks. It's really shitty. And I've been fortunate enough where I've maintained, I'm deemed essential, that's up for argument. But I know there's a lot of people that are way worse off. And this whole bit about writing and, journaling, I guess, speak to that if you can, because you must have experience with that.
Yeah. So, for me, I did take a bit of a downward spiral when the first most recent lockdown came on the Easter weekend, because for me, squash was that outlet, whereas golf is for you. They closed the gyms.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to play squash and kind of take the frustration out on the ball anymore. And it started to build a little bit. And the one thing that I've really taken to is I do what I call a daily brain dump. And it's my personal journal. I do it every night. I do it just before I go to bed. And really what it is just to get the head junk out. I'm like many, I don't communicate the thoughts vocally as much as I should. I do it usually through writing, which you see through the blog. But there's a lot of other stuff that I don't talk about on the blog that's still going on, but I need to get it out. I have a very caring partner, and, God bless her. If she wasn't here, I'd probably be in a lot worse spot. But it's hard to talk to her and not take out my frustration on her, because she's closest to me. I'm with her every day. We live together. So what I can do is just kind of beat the shit out of my journal with those daily brain dumps. Yeah. And I know, not everybody is a writer. So for some, doing a practice like that might not come naturally, but it's 45 minutes I take out of my day. I time block that off. I make sure this is the time for me. And it's not perfect. I'm not trying to say things the perfect way. I'm not trying to use proper grammar and format it correctly. It's really just taking the crap that's up here and getting it out so I can kind of cleanse myself. And, for some, maybe they like to make videos.
Right.
You could always do it that way. You could always just, record something on your phone, just saying, today was a bad day. This is why. But tomorrow is a different day, and this is the way I'm going to approach it. I mean, not to get too sort of cliche or a little out there, but our brains are very complex things. And when we focus so much on negative stuff, it can just eat you alive from the inside out. So if you can just flip the script a little bit, it does wonders for your mental health. And again, I'm not a psychologist, not a scientist, but I just know, just from this daily journal practicing, that if I miss a few days and don't do it, I feel it.
Yeah, no. I you know what? That's so important. And like you said, it's not like it's, and you shouldn't do it if it's going to be a task either, right? I mean, this is something that you should approach willingly and voluntarily, right? It's not like all of a sudden you start doing it, you get a week in, and now all of a sudden the end of the day is approaching, and you're dreading having to write in your journal. That's not what it's about, right? It's just about, like you said, unloading. And now after you, let's say you've done that, and the next day or the week goes by, do you go back and do you look at those, or does that just get tossed aside? How do you treat that information or those thoughts?
Like I have tons of notebooks that are just filled with a bunch of stuff. Most of it I don't go back to. But what does end up happening is I usually get a couple little snippets, and those I will take, and they end up becoming blog posts on my site. Just because something I say really resonates, and I get that click, and I go, oh, there's something there. But for the most part, it's just kind of a dump and go. A lot of it is stuff that like, the one thing I can say, Luca, is I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to my journals. Thrown any of them out. Whether or not I'll ever go back and look at all this stuff, I don't know, but I do have them there. So sort of the catalog of my mental journey, we'll call it.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's always probably a good reminder to have too, right? And actually, I would think at the end of the day, it's probably good resource material too, if and when the time came, right? So,
biography of Cory Davis comes about. We'll see if that's useful or not.
There's a movie in there somewhere, right? Probably. So I guess, yeah, and like I said, I mean, we're not alone in how this pandemic is affecting us. And, a lot of my podcasts have been real estate related and on the lighter side of things too and stuff. And I don't want to get too, dark and dreary here, but these are real concerns. And I mean, we know, I mean, all you have to do is listen to CBC. You know that there's people out there suffering that already have predispositions to mental health issues and whatnot. And so, like I said, the reason I wanted you on is to those that listen that are type A's, like, me, and dare say you're probably in that category, you're, entrepreneurial go-getter. You need to find those channels because you just can't have it on all the time, right? You can't have it on all the time. And you also can't, because I know there's those that would go for other stimuli, I guess, both either chemically or otherwise, right, to find those escapes and stuff. So, I think this is important, and even those important to those that are out there now, because we're this pandemic's creating a generation of people that are lost a little bit. You're either just graduated post-secondary, you're graduated high school, you're finishing online learning, you're all of a sudden your world's upside down because, the jobscape and the landscape of all of that has changed. And, just to touch on what how we started this, there's opportunity though, right? Out of all of that.
Yep. I can't say who quoted it, but what is it? Don't let a crisis go to waste.
Yeah, I've heard that one actually. Yeah, don't let a good crisis go to waste or something like that. Yeah.
And that's not to say that you have to double down on, growing your skills and learning, but there's always something out there, right? Whether it's if you're really that go-getter and you got to take some time to kind of unwind, that's also an opportunity, because you'll find when you dim the switch or turn it off, you'll maybe get an idea. You'll maybe get a different perspective that helps you kind of recognize that, hey, it's pretty tough right now, but there's a lot of good out there too. We're hearing a lot about the bad stories, but at the community level, there's a lot of small business owners still trying to do really good and really good for the community. And that's what you need to focus on.
Yeah.
Right.
No question about it. So I'll have you give sort of one parting thought to those that are out there that are considering opportunities or considering might be career change, might be maybe they're a business owner. I mean, I do deal with a lot of business owners. Maybe there's some that might avail themselves of your freelance skills, and I hope they do actually. But let's leave it with you just giving sort of a final commentary on if you had to give some insight to somebody or some advice, how would you do it?
Well, I guess the thing that really kind of propelled me to the spot that I'm in and that keeps me going is to not be afraid to be vulnerable, to put yourself out there a little bit. Especially as you get a little later in life. I'm 36 now, not to say that I'm past my prime, but I'm not the young buck I once was. And I think you start to reach a certain point in life and you think, well, this is it, right? But it's never too late. If you take a few chances, you never know what can happen. And that's what it was for me. Was I started to open up on social media. I started to make connections. I started to lean on some people that I knew in the past, and doors will open. Yeah. You just got to be willing to knock on those doors a few times, and you might hear a few no's. That door might be locked once or twice, but eventually the right one opens for you. So it's just all about being humble, being willing to be vulnerable, and just taking a chance and going for it.
You know what? That's awesome, Cory. And just to add to that, I think people think that they're alone, and they're not. There's a lot of people just like us, or just like you, or just like them, that are experiencing the same thoughts, the same worries, the same anxieties, the same all of that, right? And there's strength in numbers sometimes, and there's certainly strength in sharing and having those conversations, because it makes you feel like you're connected again, right? That you're not cast adrift and alone out there. So
that's it.
Well, listen, dude, this was awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time, and those follow. It's the Davis Daily. It's the blog, and let's hope you get a bunch of new followers after this episode.
I appreciate you having me on, Luca. It's been a blast. Good to see you, and sooner or later we'll have that pint.
Absolutely, bud. Okay, you have a good day.
Bye for now.
Okay, bye-bye.